What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another video from the Demon Overlord. Now today, guys, we're going to be talking about MTG, and as you can see here, we got some cards already laid out. These are from the blue theme deck, which I've already opened up, so that way I can take a look at them and see what's inside. Now, these are some of the MTG D&D crossover cards, and I really like these cards because they cross over that universe more than they already did before. Now, as you know, the Ravnica was one of the first miniature-based crossovers where you had the Guide to Ravnica, and then you had Theros following behind a little bit later in the booster releases. Now, we finally get it in the cards themselves for MTG. Now, on the cores, for the core people, they actually had a little bit of a sort of change in that world, where not only did you have those Hedrons becoming necessary again, you also had some adventurers and stuff in their thing. Now, this takes to a whole other level where we actually get true creatures that are following the D&D style of Warlock, Barbarian, Rogue, and not like Spellcaster anymore. You get like Warlock or Sorcerer. You're getting like all this cool stuff. Now, I don't know if there's any like Planeswalkers, because now that I think about it, in D&D, almost anything can cross into another plane. Like crossing realms between like the Prime Material plane and Hell and stuff, it doesn't take a lot of effort. You can just kind of do that. You know, you can just find a portal and go through. You don't have to be special in any way. But, you know, let's see how this works. So this is the first theme pack. This is the Fire theme pack. So I'll go through and bring up some very important ones that catch your eye, because going over every single card will take forever. Let's get into it and get a little nerdy. So guys, grab a beverage, sit down and relax, and let's begin. So the first creature that caught my eye and was interesting to take a look at, the Hulking Bugbear. Not only are we talking about another type of goblinoid, so we're not just getting a plain goblin, we're getting the Bugbear, the beefy, the hairy, the brawny, beastly race of goblin. And he's only 3 mana to cast, 1 of any color, and then he's got 2 lovely red needed. He is uncommon too, which is always nice. He has haste, so very simple, and he's a 3/3. So not a bad standard monster to throw in a deck to have as your standard beast to quickly throw out there, so you get some protection on the field. Very nice. And I think that he looks really cool with the artwork. I love his little he's got his little hoard of treasure. He has his pet wolf, and he's got like some bones there. He's even like ready to go to fight again with his large mace. He screams a true good Bugbear. So good job, Wizards. He looks pretty nice. Moving on to anything else that catches my eye in this red theme pack. So here's a 2 set of interesting little magical sorcery and instant. We have Theridus Fireball. 5 mana, 3 colorless, and then 2 red. It has the ability to roll. I like this new ability where you have to actually roll for special effects. So 1 to 9 deals 2 damage to each player. So not really good for yourself as well as your enemies. But 10 to 2, or 10 to 20, you get the awesomeness of 2 damage to each opponent. So not yourself, which is awesome, and you get to avoid that type of backfire effect. Fireball, backfire, very nice. Then we also get improvised weaponry, which is another thing that you do talk about in D&D, where you can pick up a random object and club something with it, or smash someone. And you also get a nice little artwork of the Mind Flayer getting a good slappy in the old tendril face. Basically, not those tentacles, you get me, not my brain today. Because you get I'm assuming that's some type of golden, I'm assuming a candle, I don't know. But it's pretty cool. I love the art. I love that nice epic like stance and all that stuff she's taking as she smacks him across the old tentacle beard. Very nice. Next up with this theme pack, we got some interesting artifacts. We had an artifact treasure, which treasure seems to be something that just gives you mana of any color when you sacrifice it. And then we also have a piece of armor. But first, let's talk about this treasure, because it's a mimic. Not only do we have a treasure artifact that can just give you mana, we have the mimic itself. That's right, the creepy little critter that you never know that you're going to find when you open a chest, or nowadays when you open doors and stuff, tables, whatever. You never know when it's surprise, surprise. It bites your whole hand and you go, oh snap, that be a mimic. Ow, the pain. DM, I rolled to punch this thing with full ferocity, and I pull out my sword. It only costs 2 mana to play, which is always cool. Not colored in any way. It's the whole, and then it actually has a cool ability with give 2 mana, so it's basically its play cost. And you can basically shapeshift it into an artifact creature with 3/3 until the end of turn. So you get a mimic to fight for you until the end of the turn, which is pretty cool. Then we also have armor, which is always cool. I always like the armor effect, because leather armor is not the most powerful armor in Magic or in D&D. I'm not surprised it didn't follow suit, because D&D leather armor is not that powerful. It's sort of lower tier armor. I believe it's around mid to light armor, depending on its makeup and stuff. And it only gives you like 1 toughness, so Not too bad, and it is a 0 equip, though, which is only nice. And you can only activate it once each turn. So I'm not really sure how that really exactly works. I haven't looked at the rules, but it's pretty cool to have some nice armor that really is just an easy, quick throw on. So if you want to give a monster a quick little toughness bump, say you want to bump up your rust monster or some creature that only has like a 1, which I'll get to that a little later. He's one of the few I have in here to look at, and it's interesting. Very interesting. But now let's move on, though, because we got to keep going. Got to keep it moving. Now, of course, I wouldn't skip over 2 very useful and well-known spells from the D&D Player's Handbook that you can use, as well as the options. The Burning Hand spell. Only 2 to play, and it deals 2 damage to target creature or a Planeswalker. I do love how they were smart to do that, where you can target Planeswalkers as well. Then get Magic Missile, divided amongst, divided to choose among 1, 2, or 3 targets. And because they chose targets, I assume a Planeswalker would still be able to be pelted by some magic missiles. And also, the spell can't be countered, which is pretty cool. It's always nice to have a spell that can't be countered when you're playing against those people with white spells or blue decks that can go, I just counter that. No, not today you don't. So really cool to get some spell love in there. Let's move on to some more beasties, though, shall we? Now here we get 2 awesome creatures from the D&D universe. The Red Dragon, the most powerful of the Chromatics, and the big bad lord himself. He has 6 mana play. Now, he is uncommon as well, which I like. So I did get my favorite time dragon, the Red Dragon. We also get some love for a creature that usually doesn't see a lot of playtime in D&D, only because DMs are afraid to use them because of their rusting effect on weapons and such. The Rust Monster. And I believe he actually just got felled by an adventure. It looks kind of like in the card, he just got dropped. But I mean, with that kind of stats, I'm not surprised. He only has a 1 toughness, so basically any creature he fights with is going to probably drop him. He is also uncommon too, surprisingly though. Really nice, we got 2 nice uncommon cards. The dragons do have the awesome Fire Breath ability, so when he comes in and enters the battlefield, he breathes some fire and deals 4 damage to each opponent. Imagine stacking 4 of these dragons coming out. You could literally lay 12, like around 16 damage on your opponents. Right there, each opponent takes 4 hits. Oh man, that would just be devastating if you were even playing a group match with 1 versus, 5. So what, everyone for themselves type game. That would be very useful. And the Rust Monster's just pretty cool. I mean, I like how he got some love. He does have the ability to sacrifice an artifact, get 2 addition for him. I would definitely say equip him with leather armor to help him beef up his toughness so he's not a glass cannon, but pretty cool nonetheless. Moving on. And here are the last creatures of the fire deck that really made me feel like they needed some attention. Here is a Teepling, that's right. The old little demon touch people themselves. Valor Singer, we have a Teepling Bard. There's the Bard class coming into play. And even the Giants are getting some love for some classes. He's actually I think, the rare one of the deck, since he is rare. He's also, I think, was the special one of the theme pack. He's got Trample. He is, whenever he's dealt damage, venture into the dungeon. I'll show dungeons in a sec. I'll show dungeons later in the video, because those are really unique and interesting. But let's look at him here. He's only about, like, what? Tiefling's 3 mana play. Very simple cost there. And at the beginning of combat, target creature you control gets +1/+2 to the end of turn. That's a pretty nice one there. He gets the ability to just give inspiration at the beginning of combat of your turn, so that's cool. And it must be continuous, or maybe once, whatever. Still gives a nice inspiration that bards are known to give. And the Giant's really cool because he has Trample. I mean, with 7/3, he definitely is going to need it, because anything with like a 4 toughness might wipe him out, or anything that's got a higher toughness or attack than frickin' 3 is going to wipe him out, which is a shame. I wish he was a little bit beefier for being a Fire Giant, too, since Fire Giants are pretty tough. And I love his little Hellhounds going back. This is basically the one from Storm King's Thunder, though, if you don't recognize it. Anyway, moving on to the next theme pack. So here we have 2 examples of cool cards. We got the awesome Dragon Turtle. Oh boy, more dragons. I love it. This is definitely probably the special one of the theme packs, since he is a rare. And on top of that, he has Flash, and also he has the ability Drag Below. I like this. It's interesting. By tapping himself, he also taps a target creature, and they don't untap during their controller's next upkeep step, untap steps. Now, I assume he also probably stays untapped, most likely. And that's pretty cool, though. But for 3 mana, as a flash, you can quickly come in, tap an opponent's creature, take them below, and you can stop them from attacking, giving you an extra turn to think of what to do or how to deal with something. We also get the lovely Pixie Guide here, and these are these interesting, like, old-school, vintage-looking cards. Like, they have that vintage artwork card, which is pretty cool, and I love it. Even though it's a simple fairy, it is pretty cool. If you roll 1 more dice, instead, roll their many dice +1 and ignore the lowest roll. So you're kind of getting the grant advantage, like as if you were in D&D, and I love how that kind of came through. Really nice. Let's move on. So here are two interesting blue cards that have a lot of coolness. We have an enchantment, and it's a class, and it's also uncommon. That is Wizard class. For 1 mana, you now have no maximum hand size. You just broke the game right there. You could have a literally 20-card hand. Plus, every single level you upgrade it to, you get those extra abilities stacked on. So you get to add those abilities. So, like, you know, for 3 mana, you get when the class becomes level 2, draw 2 cards. I'm assuming that means every turn you draw 2 cards, most likely, or if you have to pay that mana cost, but you now have that level, whatever it is. I have to look at the rules on it 100%, but that's still cool. Then you can put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control for every time you draw a card. So if you have that with the +2, you can get the nice ability of putting 2 +1/+1 counters on a creature. Also over here we have Mordenkainen's Polymorph, a blue spell. It's only 2 to cast, very cheap. And at the end, until the end of turn, target creature becomes a dragon with base power and toughness of 4/4 and gains flying. Loses all the types, so you can't say if it's a sliver, it won't be a sliver anymore. But it is target creature. So say if your opponent has a demon, they're bumping up with a lot of stuff with demonic power-ups that only affect demons, you hit him with this spell, boom. Now he's just a standard 4/4 dragon. You might be able to take him down or something like that. Or you could use some type of like dragon controlling device or something like that. So pretty cool. I like it. I also love the artwork plus the additional like representation of Mordenkainen's amazing powers. Really cool. Now here are two interesting cards I wanted to review because I thought these were very cool and very interesting because these show off the player style aspects. Here we have the guard approach, which, you know, like you see a guard approach, it's kind of cool. It shows a party, what do they do in the guard's approach? And then you have come to a river where you have to make that decision, fight the current or find a crossing. You know, you got those players who always go like, I just fight the current and cross through with my strength or, you know, with my athletics or whatever. Then you have the person who's like, I find a crossing because I know I'm not going to beat that river and I'm going to get flooded away. So it's really cool to see like, these representations of the party coming to a situation. Really nice. I love that little fact, MTG. Very nice. And here we have a very special card itself. The Bag of Holding. An uncommon card, an artifact, and only 1 mana. But you get to like basically discard a card, exile the card from the graveyard. So, or exile that card from the graveyard. So that's interesting. Whenever you discard a card, and then draw a card, then discard a card, then sacrifice Bag of Holding, return all cards exiled with Bag of Holding to their owner's hand. So very interesting. So if you have this with Wizards class, this would allow you to have a humongous beefy hand with some really good cards in it. And if hopefully you've built up some mana before then, that's gonna be really cool. Now let's open up another theme pack and see what we're gonna go. We're gonna start off with the green theme pack. So here's the green theme pack style. I should have mentioned this with the red and blue. I did not, but oh well. Here's a cool owlbear, and it has the authentic correct eyes. They have red eyes, not yellow eyes, so it's really cool. Plus, he doesn't have that purple coloring you only see in 5th edition. So let's get into the cards, and hopefully I get one of these big bad boys. I'd love to have an owlbear into one of my bestial green decks. Really cool. Let's get into this box and see what we got for standouts. Here we have, ironically, the first 2 spells sort of out of there. We have Plummet, which has a lovely green dragon being bombarded by arrows as it's being wrapped up by some special spell effect, causing him to fall to the ground with his lovely chlorine gas cloud trailing him down. Really interesting. And then we have You Meet in a Tavern. Another one that really shows off the characters coming together in the party. This is obviously the beginning of the quest. Really cool. Or, you know, if this is where you happen to meet up later in a tavern. And it is uncommon. Pretty cool. I mean, you know, you have the start a bet, brawl, or form a party option. Then you have destroy target creature with flying. So really cool. I like these, like, D&D inspired versions of older classic cards, except for Tavern, of course. Moving on. So here we have 2 good creatures that are getting some love. We have the Gnoll Hunter, which is actually a 2/2. He's not too bad for 2 mana. We have a Scaled Herbalist, or a Lizard Folk. I wish they called it Lizard Folk and not just Lizard, but hey, whatever it is. And plus you have his ability, which is constantly reusing. You may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. So you get an extra land. That's actually going to be a very good card to go in a green deck. Then you also have whenever the Gnoll Hunter attacks, if you attack with creatures with total power of 6 or greater with this combat, put a 1 counter on the Hunter. So if you happen to have a bunch of like 3 gnolls going in for an attack with their power combined, dang, you can bump each of them up with a +1/+1, turning it to like 9 for total power. So that's pretty useful and pretty nice. Moving on to the next standouts of this theme pack. Here are 2 epic level cards, both uncommon. We have Wild Shape. So you get to control your creature, the base power and toughness become that creature type, and you gain the ability. So you can make turtles with hexproof, a spider with reach, or an elephant with trample. That's pretty cool. We get some transformational stuff for the old wild shape, those druid spells that we love so much. We also get the terrifying purple worm, that gargantuan beast that is a terror from underneath. And just like all worms from the Magic the Gathering's past, he's pretty beefy. With an 8/7, he's definitely powerful. And he's only 7 mana to play, which isn't too bad. And this spell costs 2 less to cast for each creature died this turn. So if you happen to have 2 creatures die that turn, you get a little bit more cheaper cost. That's not even bad. I'm assuming most likely he's eating their corpses to make him want to show up more. Dang. We also have the Ward too. And target a spell ability opponent controls to counter it unless that player pays 2. Whoa. You can make him harder to hurt by any instance or sorceries that way. That's pretty sweet. Pretty nice. Let's move on. And there we go. I got the Owlbear. I was really hoping to get this bad boy, and he's got Trample. He's only 5 mana play. He's a 4/4. Pretty beefy. And when the Owlbear enters the battlefield, draw cards. That's pretty sweet. Gives you another card draw. Then we also got the Wandering Troubadour. And he's a Dragon Bard. Now, I don't know if he's supposed to be Dragon Folk, Dragonborn. I hope Dragon Folk kind of come into D&D as a normal race. That way you're getting something different than Dragonborn. Instead of a dragon-inspired species, a true dragon humanoid race. It would just be more interesting, because unless of course, Dragonborns are getting a giant improvement in the new recent books, so maybe it might be better for that to be. But it's pretty cool to see the Dragonborn being in a different class other than a big, brawny warrior. Really nice. Oh, sorry, I had to check that. He actually allows you to venture in dungeons. Pretty cool. But I got the Owlbear. Awesome. I wish he was uncommon or rare just because he's really cool, but dang, at least I got that Owlbear. Really nice. Hope I get some more. Okay, and here we have another two very prominent beasts from the D&D world. The Lurking Roper. I actually don't think that's the Roper 100%. I think, if I remember, Ropers have yellow eyes, or is it red eyes? Well, at least this is the Mind Flayer infected version that is the ones that you need to kill them all, blow them up, burn them with fire, They make the game so unfun. But this is just your standard Roper, which still can make the game very unfun, but he looks really cool. An uncommon, only 3 mana to play, and he's a 4/5, so not too bad. And let's see, Lurking Roper doesn't untap during your untap step, so I don't know what that means. Whenever you gain life, untap Lurking Roper. Okay, so you need to put him in a life building deck. So I have a buddy of mine who would love this card because he is the meat wizard, as he calls it, and he always gains mana. He would definitely benefit from having this kind of Roper since he gains life all the time. But then we also get in love for some Direwolves, which is Direwolf Prowler. Gets 2/2 and gains haste till the end of the turn. Activate only once each turn. Not bad. You can turn him from 2/2 into a nice big beefy 4/4 for just 2 mana after he's been played. And I did get more than one of him, so that's pretty cool. Too bad he doesn't have the same ability as some of the other wolves from MTG that boost each other's power. But we'll see what else we got in this deck. So let's get more into it. And the love for the D&D creatures doesn't stop with those classes. We have the Boule, the terrifying land shark. And I find it interesting he was actually a red card. I would have figured he'd be a red card, a green card. I figured he was going to be red because these guys can usually be found in little dirt areas and not so much forest, but interesting. Yeah, very interesting. And what is this? Beginning of that step, if a creature died this turn, putting 1/1 counter on delay. And it's just a 1/1 counter, so it gets more power for more creatures that die. Very cool. We also have the Underdark Basilisk. So Basilisk from the Underdark instead of your normal forest. He looks pretty cool and aggressive, though with only 1/2, but he does have Death Touch. As long as he survives the fight, he can take down most creatures. Really nice. Or you can use him as a sacrificial pawn to get that deadly Death Touch effect. Very nice. And now we come to the rare card of the set. This is the rare one. It is the legendary artifact Instrument of the Bards. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a harmony counter on Instrument of the Bards. Then you search your library for a creature card with mana value equal to the number of harmony counters. Okay, so you can definitely use this as an interesting effect, and it's a nice artifact for only 1 green mana, so definitely a card like this could be very useful whenever you get to put some harmony counters. You could really get some cool creatures summoned. I could be using this to pull out the Owlbear, pull out the Green Worm, the Boules. I actually got a couple Boules and Direwolves, so I can pull those out. The Knoll Hunters. Man, this could be very useful for any green player. This one was well built. Very nice, Wizards. Very nice. Some lovely cards. Now let's get into the white theme pack, shall we? Okay, so first we'll stand out. We got a lovely sort of old vintage art, bookwork of a Celestial Unicorn. Very nice. Whenever you gain life, put a 1/1 counter on Celestial Unicorn. So in a life building deck of light, this would be very nice. We also got another class, so very cool. This is the Cleric class. You would gain life, you gain that much life plus 1 instead. So I'm guessing every time you gain life, you get +1 to it. So, I mean, if you're gaining 5 life, does it mean you get 1 per each life? Or is it like any total? Have to look into that in the rules. That's pretty cool. Second tier, or second level, gain life, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. The great thing is these are permanent counters, so you're not losing it. That's because level 3, you return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. You gain life equal to its toughness. Oh boy, I can see why it's uncommon. I mean, man, if you lose a very powerful monster with great toughness, bring it back to life at level 3, you are getting some serious life drain. Plus the other effects kick in, where you gain life, you get to put counters. You also would gain +1 extra that life. If you had Celestial Unicorn, he would also be boosted with this, and it would be a great 1-2 punch combo. Very cool. Very interesting. But let's move on. Speaking of classic D&D, we have the Potion of Healing. Ah, yes. We all know when people need their Potion of Healing, you gain 3 life. I mean, this would be great for that life building aspect. We also got another great dragon, the White Dragon. Oh boy, I didn't get a green dragon in my last one, but we got a white dragon. Oh, I love my dragons. Really cool. He has that cold breath. Battlefield target creature an opponent controls. That creature doesn't untap during its control, and that's untaps that. Very nice. He basically can tap a creature with that cold breath. Very cool. Was hoping he'd actually have more of an ability like the red dragon, at least doing some damage, but hey, that's a pretty nice ability. Makes sense for a cold breathing dragon. Moving on. So here's a quick little notice of the Celestial Unicorn. I actually have both the sort of bookwork art, and then we have the actual like card art, which is cool that I got both versions. Really nice, and I actually do love the drawing artwork more than I love the actual card art. Really weird, but man, it's just really cool. It's nice to get both versions so you have options. Plus, you can throw them both in the deck and have a couple of unicorns at your side. And 2 more classic things. The old dungeon map. Something every adventuring party tries to find. It gives you mana, which is interesting. And then you get to venture into the dungeon, which can have different consequences. Like I said, I'll talk about the dungeons after this theme pack. And then we get the awesome spell, Divine Smite. Nothing's better for an old paladin when he gets to strike down a monster with the divine power of his deity. Oh boy. Man, clerics and paladins love using that divine power to strike down their foes. And it's shown through in this card. Look at him strike through that. I'm assuming maybe a bard devil. Slicing it clean through like a boss. That's how you do it. And here are 2 interesting artifacts. We have a Paladin Shield, a specific item set for paladins. Pretty cool. I like how it has this whole thing when it enters the battlefield, attach to target creature you control. Then equip, you get +0, +2. So you get some extra beefy toughness, which paladins always use. And then we get a +2 mace, which is actually really good because for 2 mana, you get a +2/+2, which is really nice for any creature to get their hands on. So if you have a 3/3, it can become a 5/5. If you have a 4/4, it becomes a 6/6. And it's only 3 to equip. So I mean, like total, you're paying 5 to get this into battle and get it used. But also, you can just have it sitting in your thing ready to attach your creature when you need to. Really cool. I gotta like that. So, guys, that's actually the last of the cards, but we are going to talk about the dungeons. Okay, so what do we have with dungeons? Well, there's Tomb of Annihilation. We have the Lost Mines of Phandelver. We also have, let's see, a lot of these are the Lost Mist of Mines of Phandelver. I got a lot of those. We have Dungeon of the Mad Mage is another good one. I mean, like, you get some really cool dungeons. So each of these dungeons are a little different. They're not all the same. Like, I've got a couple Mines of Phandelver, and they look to be kind of the same right now, but, they're very interesting and very unique. And I assume you probably would choose a dungeon at the beginning of the game, and that's your dungeon to go into. Because, I mean, you have the Temple of Dumathune, you have the Cradle of the Death God, then you have the Mad Wizard's Room, or the Mad Wizard's Lair. So, I mean, you have this whole, you get to venture through and do stuff, and you get to create things based on it. And that's pretty cool. I mean, you get to venture, so I assume you get to take advantage of each of these. Yeah, for instance, Dark Pool, each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. So that's pretty cool, very interesting. I assume you, like I said, you get to choose these, or maybe you draw them. I mean, they don't have an interest, some of them are double-sided, so, I mean, I assume you choose at the beginning of your turn, or the beginning of the game, and use them. So really cool. I gotta say, Wizards of the Coast, I love this. Now, in the next video, guys, I will be going over some booster packs I happen to find my hands on. So make sure you come in and check those out for the next video. Anyway, guys, that's all I got for you today. Have a great one. I'll see you next time. And if you have not subscribed to the channel, guys, I definitely recommend doing so. Helps out the channel. Also, smash that like button. In this case, the mighty Paladin smash that like button. And if you have any comments, questions, concerns, or ideas, throw them in the comments down below. I love hearing back from my viewers. Also, guys, do subscribe and make sure you put that bell notifications to all. That way you're not missing out on anything I throw out in the future. Anyway, guys, that's all I got for you today. Have a great one and see you next time. Bye-bye.